Yow! My amplified unit! Top of the morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world, with your Dunkin' Extra, maybe you got a Starbucks, maybe you got a coffee, or your beverage of choice from your local mom and pop shop. But grab your bevies and let's get amplified. The Amped Up Podcast for Thursday, May the 18th, 2023. And it is indeed time to wake up, get up, and get amplified. And I'm giving you a heads up. This is going to be a double-decker, a double dose of amplification today. This is podcast number 1, and later this evening / tonight, there will be a podcast 2. So there is double the amplification for Thursday, May 18th, 2023. And both podcasts are going to be packed, stacked, and jacked like only the Amplified band can deliver. And it's a double amplification day because it's a big thank you back to every single one of my Amplified unit members. Everybody from my red team, go! To my channel members, initiate those gold cards, activate those sumbitches, because now is the time to utilize them. Channel members, everybody in this unit right now, do me a favor, smash that up. Whatever your big wrestler finisher is, your favorite move in the business, I want you to perform that right now on that like button. Give it a stiff shot. Knock it down and out. 1, 2, 3. Put that like button looking up at the lights. Appreciate that. That helps out the algorithm in all seriousness. So that's the only thing I ever ask. That is totally free, of course. If you guys want to throw BC a coffee, that's never needed. It's always appreciated. And you guys seem to always want to chuck a coffee at BC to say thank you. And to you guys, I will give you guys a shout out at the end of this video. There were some super thankers. New channel members jumping on board. So I want to give some shout outs at the end of this podcast. I appreciate the coffees, guys. It's never needed, but I do appreciate it. It's another level of support. But the like button is all I need. That's totally free. I appreciate that. Smash it. You just helped out big time. Now, for this podcast, wow, when I say packed, jacked, and stacked, we're going to talk a huge, and I mean massive, title feud that WWE is currently planning. This is not just word around the campfire. They're planning this. So if this falls through, there was a major opponent that somehow leapfrogged the individual we're going to talk about for the championship. And I'll give you guys, it's already spoiled in the thumbnail, in the headline anyway, most likely. But it involves Rhea Ripley's championship. Whether that's a red title, a blue title, who the fuck knows when they're going to do this stupid title swap. But this is a match that captivates BC on paper, and I know it would most of you, if done properly. This is not just a quick title match. This is supposedly the title feud of the summer. When? Well, I can't give away too much. That's the teaser, all right? We're going to talk about it. They've only wrestled one time to my knowledge, and technically it wasn't in, WWE. I'll explain. And it ended in a schmaz. So we're going to talk about what WWE is planning and why, if done properly, if done correctly to the most amplified of measures, this could be one of the best women's feuds we've seen in a long time. On the flip side, AEW, wow, have things taken a turn for the more bizarre. As if the Punk AEW situation could not get any more bizarre, it just did. Wait till you hear the latest developments. This is not storyline. We're hoping that this all ends up in an entertaining way for all of us, the fans, and that the locker room is not split literally, not just what you see on TV, the brand split. We're hoping the locker room is not going to be divided to a point where it cannot come back from this, because AEW is in some turmoil right now. Wait till you hear the latest developments with the Punk situation. You ain't going to believe this shit, but it's actually happening. BC has the latest BC is more befuddled than anybody else right now. Wait till you hear this. And did Tony Khan finally locate and reattach his fucking balls? Because it looks like Khan is taking a hard stance finally. This is what we've asked. Don't come down hard on him now. We're going to talk all about the AEW situation because it is unfolding fast and furious, and it has gotten more bizarre. And NXT, I got the rating for you, and we're going to talk about that and explain that in great detail. That's podcast number 1. That's the main stories. BC's going to get a massive swig of his Dunkin' Extra Extra. All you got to do after you smash that up is come on back and get amplified with the Amplified Man. Simple. Simplistic. Ah, yes, unit. Let's rock this out, man. There is no time to waste. It is a packed, jacked, and stacked show, as I aforementioned. We're also going to talk Punk going after Brian Alvarez. Wait till you hear this shit when we get to this whole bizarre AEW Punk story, Collision, Turner Network. I mean, it is turmoil right now, and this is not storyline. I mean, what we're hearing, it is legit turmoil. I'm going to give you guys the specifics. That's all coming up. Salute. This is indeed part 1 of 2 separate podcasts today on the channel for Thursday, May 18th, 2023. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. As of this point, guys, we are 9 days away from Night of Champions, Saudi, Saturday, May 27th, and we are 10 days away from AEW Double or Nothing head-to-head with NXT Battleground. 3 premium live / pay-per-view events in 24 hours. Every brand will be producing a pay-per-view. So next weekend is massive. I will be live, hopefully, at least one of them. I'll be live, maybe a couple of them. And every show will have a review, just so you guys know. So a little bit of a heads up. Every single show. Battleground from NXT will have a review. Dynamite. AEW's Double or Nothing will have a review, possibly live. WWE's Saudi show, Night of Champions, will be live, hopefully, but that will have a good, the bad, and the ugly review. So that's a asterisk. That's a special review. Maybe we can do that for, I guess we would do that. Do we do that for all of them? I don't know. We'll see. That's a packed, jacked, stacked pay-per-view weekend on this channel, man. All right, guys, let's get into this. Where do you want to start? Let's go with the WWE big title feud for this summer. It's more than just word around the campfire. BC is hearing that this is what is planned. Again, take it with a grain of salt. In this company, everything changes by the second, I understand, especially with Pinocchio, Schnoz McGee, Paul 3H's Levesque, and the old bastard in Stamford, Connecticut, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Of course, everything changes by the second, and nothing is set in stone, and they barely ever plan in advance. So the fact that we're actually hearing that this is pretty concrete, it intrigues BC, and there's no reason to tease it anymore. This isn't the cold open. What I'm talking about is Rhea Ripley's SmackDown, soon to be, we believe, Raw Championship, defended against challenger and summer-long title feuder Becky Lynch. Think about it. Let it resonate. Think about what it could be. If done properly, this could be the women's feud of the last few years. I'm going that far out. And guys, I'm not that big of a Rhea Ripley fan. I'm glad to see her get her shine. She's crushing it out of the park. And that's with an injury for several months this last year. WrestleMania, I'm not even talking about that. Just the way she's been booked and the way she's handled it and propelled off of it, especially being paired up with Dom, who's got some of the best. Dominic Mysterio has some of the best heel heat I've seen in the past decade plus. But Rhea Ripley's crushing it. But I've never been a big fan, per se. But it's great to see. And Becky Lynch, I've never been a big fan of Becky Lynch. But I've always critiqued her and dissected her promos and her matches with the most fairest of point of views. And I always wanted the best for Becky Lynch because she really does put her all into it. So whether I'm a fan or not doesn't matter. what these ladies are involved in, you're always going to get my amplified truth on the matter. What it does for the ladies or men, what it does for the feud, what it does for us, the fans, what it does for the roster, what it does for the company. I always ask these questions when WWE starts any type of a storyline or a feud. What's the benefits and what's the negatives, the positives and the negatives? You weigh them out. Draw them out if you gotta. Write them out. And if the negatives are outweighing the positives, you don't do that. Well, with this, Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, and from what we're hearing, not just a one-off, this is going to be a summer-long feud. After Becky wraps up her Trish Stratus, which I also am hearing is going to go longer than Night of Champions. They're going to go into June with that. So post-June on, I don't know if that leaks into September or not, but you're going to see Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley. Or at least that's the current plans. Again, this company barely plans out anything, and when they do, they change it up anyway. But it's pretty concrete, guys. Be on the lookout for that. Becky Lynch, by the way, real quick, she has, I hate to use the term earned it, because you could say every wrestler earns a championship or a big feud or to at least be in a title picture, right? Most wrestlers have earned it, right? Most we can say deserve it. I hate those words. But Becky has literally gone the old school traditional route. Be in storylines and feuds, whether you guys like them or not, eye of the beholder. Whether you thought they were good or not, eye of the beholder. I get it. Everyone's going to have different opinions on that. But the fact is, Becky went and had storylines and feuds that had nothing to do with a championship. I love that. You don't always have to be in a title picture or going for titles to be relevant or to always be talked about or to always be looked at as a main eventer. You just don't have to. Some of the best wrestlers in the world never held a WWE championship, for instance, like the world title, like Roddy Piper, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, Mr. Perfect. You guys can come up with a whole list, as can BC. And they were always huge names growing up. Names I'll never forget, and I probably can name you 350 matches off the top of my dome piece. Ted DiBiase, Mr. Perfect, Roddy Piper, and so many others. I don't care if you're coming up with Tito Santana or the Big Boss Man, right? I mean, these are some of my favorites. They easily could have been injected into the main event at any time, and it didn't need to be a championship. Some of the best feuds I ever remember. I tell you guys this all the time. Big Boss Man, every single feud he was in, I remember so vividly because I loved it. Whether it was the Mountie and going to jail, or whether it was Nails, the ex-con, or just everything this guy was in. Even when he came back to WWE and he had the fucking Big Show on his father's casket and Big Boss Man is riding away in the hearse. I mean, some of the storylines and segments and matches that Big Boss Man brought to life. Just giving you guys some examples. Whether it was Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart, Mr. Perfect and Razor Ramon, Mr. Perfect and Ric Flair in their Survivor Series build. It was a tag team match with Macho Man Randy Savage and Mr. Perfect versus Ric Flair. And who was Flair's tag team partner, man? It was Razor Ramon and Ric Flair versus Mr. Perfect and Macho Man. Anyway, guys, the point is, I remember all this shit because it was so fucking fun. No titles were on the line. It was just go and do your thing. Man, have a storyline, bring it to life, have the characters already be larger than life, and we're good. You know, these days, everybody has to be in a title match for fans, right? Or be in a title picture, right? I just saw a report recently. It was probably from fucking WrestleVotes, because it just seemed like a bunch of BS. They're like, Gunther is internally rated as the number one heel, or the top two number one heels. There's no internal list, numbnuts. It's just a public list. And then you have a roster availability list. There's no such thing as an internal heel face list. I keep seeing these reports internally. Wrestler X, Y, and Z is listed as the top face in the company, and wrestler Y is number 2, and wrestler Z is number 3. The top heel in the company is wrestler A, and wrestler B is the second biggest heel in the company. There's no internal list. That is absolutely ludicrous. It is BS. It is fabricated. There's no internal list of who a top heel is and a top face. So right there, that's bullshit. But they list Gunther, right? It's the obvious, by the way. They're like Solo Sikoa and Gunther are internally rated as the top heels. Well, who the fuck's it gonna be? Honestly, who the fuck is it? The Viking Raiders? Who? Indashir? I don't understand. Who do you think? Who else is even a fucking... I don't even know who else is I can't even think of anybody on the top of my dome piece because I don't know who's on which roster. I don't know who is supposed to be a face or a heel anymore these days. That's how pathetically confusing WWE has gotten. Top of my head, I can't tell you anybody. Roman Reigns is the top fucking heel. There you go. Roman Reigns is the top fucking heel. What do you mean Gunther in Solo? What the fuck's Roman's name? This is so fucking stupid. And it's obvious. Vince McMahon has always been high on Gunther. That's why he put him on the winning streak. That's why Vince McMahon gave Gunther the IC championship. Gunther was on a tear. All of a sudden, WrestleVotes comes out with a supposed news story that says Vince was going to bury Gunther. Vince was going to bury the guy that he handpicked to be in the next big thing, gave a winning streak to, put the championship on, was giving him booking of a lifetime, and then all of a sudden, he was going to bury him. Makes no sense. And then H gets all the credit for what's happening with Gunther. What? Vince started that. Vince gave him the title that he's got right now. The fuck are we talking about? BC's asking a question. What the fuck are we talking about here, huh? What the fuck are we talking about? Stop, man. Man, and then people actually follow this BS. But my point is, you see this story about how Gunther is internally listed as a top heel, as if we don't already know that. He's a top fucking heel. He's the IC fucking title holder for a long time, by the way. On top of that, though, then fans get carried away and they go, yeah, he needs the title soon. He needs a world title. I'm not even joking. That's all you see in the community right now. Gunther's got to be main event sooner than later. Gunther's got to be going for world gold. Gunther versus Roman has to have... What are you talking about? We just said Roman's a fucking big heel. Gunther's a big heel. Why would we need to see a heel... You're not even thinking. Why are you anointing him a world champion already? Why does he have to get world titles thrown on him already? Relax. We all like Gunther, or most of us anyway. We all know the potential. We all see he's being booked properly for the most part. You know, I would have booked him a little bit more full throttle. You see Night of Champions, and the guy just got his number one contender on Monday night. 11 nights, 12 nights before the fucking show next Saturday. And he finally gets a number one contender for the title, and that's in a fucking schmaz battle royal, and it's fucking Ali. So, of course, I would book Gunther more full throttle with more sense and more meaning behind what he's doing. But you can't say he's not being booked dominant, more dominant than most, when most of the roster is 50-50 booked or much worse. So, of course, we want the best for him, and he's getting better booking than most. But don't anoint him a fucking championship. Build him up and build up his stories. He'll only get better, and we will be more on board in the long run. This isn't a Cody Rhodes situation where Cody had to win Sunday, April 2nd. Because if he doesn't, you're going to get everything we've seen since. That's how we know that was a botch on Sunday night, April 2nd, with Roman walking away with the titles. This is not that case. Gunther's going to be fine without any fucking title. Just book him properly with diabolical badass feuds, smash it out, raise our interest, and we'll be along for the ride when he eventually gets a championship. Back in the day, we had feuds all the time that had nothing to do with titles. Stop, please, thinking that every time there's a flavor of the month or every time we like somebody, they need to get a world championship. We're saying that about Rollins. For a whole year, we didn't give a fuck about Rollins. We understand he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. We genuinely, most of us like Seth Rollins. We want the best for Rollins. But the Joker character wasn't landing. It was clear Rollins didn't even understand his own character. So when the bell rang, a lot of audiences were just like, and the booking sucked. The second half of 2022, Rollins, Austin Theory, and Bobby Lashley faced each other 1,006 times. We didn't care about Rollins at all because the company didn't even. There was no interest raised. He gets this new song. We start doing a Disney sing-along on ice. And all of a sudden, we're anointing him a new champion. He's got to get he's so over. No, the sing-along is over. When the bell rings, you still got to give him the proper booking, and he's still got to find that connection with the crowd character-wise. For a lot of us, it still's not landing. So giving Seth Rollins a championship now will be the same thing as giving him the U.S. championship several months ago, the end of 2022. When the booking was still trash, his title reign was garbage, and there was still no connection. Now, because he has a sing-along, we're already anointing him a championship. Because Gunther is internally supposedly rated as a top heel, as if we didn't already fucking know that by seeing it with our own eyes. All of a sudden, Gunther needs a world championship. Relax. They don't even need to be in title pictures up front. You just book them properly. And we won't think about the championship because the feuds are so good and captivating. And you understand why this wrestler that could easily be champion, she or he is preoccupied because this feud has taken precedent over the title. That should happen in wrestling, where you come across somebody where the feud overtakes the championship. That's what we used to see all the time, and we bought into the reasoning why we're getting grudge matches. Becky Lynch, whether you like these matches or not, whether you like the story or not with Trish, or with Lita, or being in a tag team with Lita, I get it, eye of the beholder. But the fact that she was willing to do that, willing to give the championships to others, let Belair have her fucking long title reign, let the Asukas and such have their matches on the other brand, let Rhea Ripley take it from Charlie. Let Rhea's ride begin. And Becky's over here with some legends. She's doing shit, whether you like it or not. Again, eye of the beholder, whether you thought it could be better, no doubt. But she's in a champion with Lita. She's in a feud with Trish. It's not like she's been doing nothing. It's not like she's not been trying to just do other things and let others have the championship limelight. That's what we need more of. My point in all this is I respect Becky Lynch 1,000,000%. Whether I'm a big fan or not doesn't matter. I respect her for going out of her way to do anything but be in the title picture. And now, if she wants to come back into it, if WWE says now's the time with a long title feud with Rhea Ripley, salute. On paper, I am ready for it. Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch. Do it properly. Let them go to war every time they see one another. And this is going to be proper to the most amped up of measurements. This is a proper feud on paper. Let it play out in real time. I love it. They've only had one match to my knowledge. November 2019, I recall Becky and Rhea, I think it was around November. I'm going to say November 2019. They had a match in NXT, but the match never had a definitive winner. They had a schmaz where like Baszler and the gals came down, her clique at the time. They came down and pretty much muffed up the finish. We never had a definitive winner to what was a really good match that was unfolding. We never had that. They may have mixed it up in War Games afterwards, maybe a couple of years later. I don't have the exact year, and I don't know who else was in that match, so I don't want to definitively say that, but I recall them at a War Games. I'll go back and research that for a future podcast. That's the only, to my knowledge, times that they have faced. One-on-one once, ended in a schmaz, DQ, or just thrown out because they both got attacked by Shayna Baszler and her clique. And that was a really good match, and we never got the rematch on that. And then War Games, they just went to war, I believe, for a little bit, and that was that. This could be that time, man. You take this into SummerSlam, and you build one of your biggest, best women's feuds of all time, and BC is going to be double-fisting Coffees, as most of his amplified unit is. We're going to be edge of our seat, and we're going to say, rock out. What you saw at Mania with Charlie, Flair, and Rhea, and how physical it was, and how much they wanted to prove that they deserved the main event. Again, I don't think they should have been. That tag match with Owens and Zayn versus the Usos has to be the main event. But the fact that they wanted to go out and prove so badly that they could have easily been and impressed you and entertained you, that's what I want to see. And I honestly think, I'll call it right now, I think Becky Lynch, Rebecca Quinn, and Rhea Ripley would smash it out of the park. You would not find that ball. The second that home run is hit by Lynch and Rhea, you're not going to find that ball, man. There's no fan that's going to get it and throw it back or keep it for a souvenir. That ball is missiled, launched into the stratosphere. And it might be hit so hard by Becky and Rhea that it just fucking explodes into something magnificent. It becomes another planet up in the solar system. That's right. I'm calling it right now. If done correctly booking-wise, and if they do what I know they can do in the ring. At SummerSlam, maybe a month before at that premium live event, maybe a month after SummerSlam if you want to do a rubber series. But I believe, I know that they can even top Rhea and Charlie from Mania 39. That is huge. In the past couple of years, in interviews, Rhea Ripley has done nothing but praise a match between her and Becky, saying it needs to happen. Becky Lynch has done nothing but praise the work of Rhea and says she wants that match with Rhea. Man, you put him on the second biggest stage of the year, SummerSlam. Come on, man. That could be it. That would be one of the most anticipated Becky Lynch matches that BC has ever come across. Because, again, I'm not that big I'm just not that big into certain individuals, but I want the best for them. Becky Lynch has never really pulled me in that direction, but if I'm being a fair critic, a lot of what she's done the past few years, I've actually been into. When she was taking on Lita, before the tag team title victory with Lita, when she was facing Lita, what was that, last year, Extreme Rules, something like that, a year ago, when she was facing Lita, guys, I loved that. I thought Lita was doing some of her best work countering Becky. Becky was taking it to another level with her heel status. A lot of fans at that point didn't like Becky as a heel, so they were already kind of downing their segments. But they were pulling off some really good work, and the match was actually damn good. I think we did that PPV, Premium Live event. We did that live, I believe, for the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly review. And I loved that, man. And I was just thinking, man, see, Becky can do really good stories and feuds if the machine just gets behind the feud and not just Becky. Anyway, going off in left field with a hockey stick, that is what the plan is for Rhea. Let me know how you guys feel about it. Would you be on board with a Becky-Rhea feud for the championship, lasting more than a match, more than a month? Because I know BC is down with it. Interesting to hear what my unit says. That took a much. I'm telling you guys, that's what this. That's why it's. I switched to basically more podcast format. I know it's the tube, and you guys have the option to watch me. It is YouTube, but I switched to more podcast format, which is just longer. Like most of these vids, uploads, live stream, most of them are an hour plus. So obviously that's more podcast. We could just put in the earbuds and just listen to BC because it's so long. It's an hour plus usually. And I switched to the longer ones because I wanted to just talk about shit more, whereas in other videos where I was trying to keep it a half an hour, 45 minutes, I can't go in depth with what I want to talk about. So, switching to a podcast format, which is just mostly audio. It's a long audio format, hour plus on these podcasts. You could just put in earbuds and go do your shopping, go for a jog, do your work, put BC on in the background, and just listen. Because, I have a lot to talk about with these subjects, and I don't want to just be like, due to time restraints, I have to move on to the next subject. So I thank you guys for allowing me to talk a lot about just why I am so happy to see Becky have nothing to do with a championship for the better part of the last 6 months. I know she's been gone for a little bit of that, but even before that, it just seems like she knows that she should not always be around the title. It doesn't work for Charlie Flair. It doesn't work for anybody. Her and Rhea Ripley, that could be the one, man. That could be the one. Switch over. Before we get over to the AEW news, and wow, is that just bizarre to another level. NXT, their rating for, and I had to get the exact number up, otherwise I'm about to talk about the NXT number and I didn't have it up on the screen, so I don't know where it went. I did have it up. I did my due diligence. I had my ducks in a row, but I have so many screens up that somehow the NXT number got lost, so I had to make sure I have that if I'm going to talk about it. The NXT rating this week was 564,000 viewers, down from 601,000 last week. That is a 37,000 viewer drop. I'm not shocked at that, actually, because I saw that Monday Night Raw lost 70,000. Was it 70? 1785 last week. 1715 this week. 70,000 viewers. Yeah, we talked about it in yesterday's podcast. Monday Night Raw lost 70,000 viewers this week. And usually when that happens, it's a ripple down, trickle effect down to NXT. And even AEW takes a hit. When WWE is doing really good business-wise, everybody else prospers. When WWE is sinking and not swimming, everybody else seems to sink and not swim properly. That's why I don't even know AEW's rating. A lot of people are saying it's an easy million because of all the upfront news, the Collision news, the Punk drama, and Tony Khan's big announcement revolving around Collision. Is he finally going to announce Punk? A lot of people are already anointing this show an easy million viewership for AEW Dynamite. BC is saying not so fast because, again, it's a ripple down effect, and the interest this week for pro wrestling, it goes in highs and lows, ups and downs like a roller coaster. This week, there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest, and the shows are not giving us a lot. A little bit, but not a lot to be that enthused with. I like what I saw on NXT Tuesday night, to be honest with you, way more than Monday night. But I'm not anointing them an easy million. It's going to be interesting to see AEW's rating this week. I don't know if it's going to be an easy million. I think they're going to struggle to hit 950, to be honest. They're old normal. Even with the big announcement and all the drama and all the buzz, I understand. But because, when you start off with WWE hurting, it does trickle down. So I'll be covering that most likely in the second podcast. So I'll have AEW's numbers later, hopefully. But for NXT, I knew they were going to take a hit off of Raw. That's not an excuse. Trust me. You still put together your best fucking product, and you make people tune in. You get people talking. But I knew that was going to take a little bit of hit. I understand the Lakers were on to, Lakers, Nuggets, conference finals. I understand. Trust me. I don't give excuses. But I understand. Even if I would give them tops, maybe a 26,000 viewer hit for the NBA. Deal? Sounds fair, right? 26,000. So that would put them at about a 590 off of the 564. If I put back the 26, that would be 590,000 viewers. I think that's about realistic. If you didn't have any competition, you pulled a 590. So it's a little better, no doubt. But you're still dropped, I would say, roughly 11,000 viewers from the 601 previous. So you still have to do better. Even though I felt that was a better show than Monday, for sure, easily. The segments I got to see, and I didn't even get to see the whole show, by the way. Maybe it was leaps and bounds better. JR9 Gaming, my right-hand man, can tell us that on the channel. JR9 and a lot of you guys have been saying NXT has been way better than anything else recently. You guys can tell me if you've seen the whole show, if it was leaps and bounds better. What I saw was definitely better than Monday. But 564 is telling you that you're still not grasping the majority of the audience. And even if I put that 26,000 up, you're still at just 590. There has to be a way. There's gotta be a way where we can consistently start getting 650. That's all I'm asking for right now. That steadies you into the 600s, and it positions you at that 650 where if you're one storyline away from getting to that next big goal of 700. I said the same thing about AEW. You're at that 950. You've been there. Now you're one story away from catapulting consistently over that million mark. So there's got to be a way, man. I don't know, man. There's got to be a way. I don't know if JR9 Gaming or you guys who watch NXT faithfully, consistently, do you guys have a way where you think they can just start pulling 650s consistently? No gimmicks, no specially themed shows, no specific reasoning, just consistent viewership at 650. I think if NXT can get their ball bearings at 650, I think Collision is not going to be beating them. Saturday night's Collision, good luck getting a steady 750. I'm calling that right now. The first month or two, maybe. But after the first couple of months of Collision, good luck getting a steady 750. I'm saying it. I'll absolutely say that. If they pull consistently over 750 on a Saturday night, 8 to 10, consistently, after 2 months, consistently 750 plus, man, I will give them major props. But there's no reason that NXT should be getting beat out by a Saturday show at 8 to 10. No. Not when their flagship show is pulling 877,000 like last week, and before that, a whole month in the 700,000s. So hopefully you guys are keeping track. But that's NXT's rating. That's the NXT ratings report. If you're new to the channel, we talk ratings, guys. We just do. If you don't think they're important, you're not paying attention close enough, or you just don't care about ratings. That's fine. But because you don't care about ratings doesn't mean they don't matter. They're still the biggest metric on how advertisers know if they should join a show or not, promote their shit on that show or not. Networks, the only way for them to decide what is working and what is not is the ratings. That's it. That's why Tony Khan is looking at them the first thing on Thursday mornings. That's why Levesque was accidentally liking a social media post about ratings and then he quickly took it off so people would think he's not. We caught you, Triple H. Everybody's looking at they know that's how you're judging the product. Of course, things have affected it, right? Things have affected the cord cutting. We get it. Streaming services. We get it. Trust me. People not doing cable as much. Saving money. We get it. But you still should have a way bigger audience than a 1.7 on Raw. You should have a bigger audience than 700,000 to 800,000 on Dynamite. You just should. And I think NXT has way more potential, whether it's developmental or not. The shows, the segments that I see, they are way better than a 5-6-4. But shit does trickle down, and when Raw does bad, everybody gets affected. That's why I'm not saying that AEW won't pull $1 million this week because of all the hoopla and the big announcement. But don't be so sure that AEW is collecting an easy $1 million. I think they're going to struggle to get $950, to be honest. Watching the numbers like I do, and seeing the buzz and putting all the metrics together, the number I came up with was about 950-ish, tops. Not saying they won't do the mill. I'm just not giving them the easy mill. That's NXT. Now, let's get to the good stuff. Oh boy, AEW. This has just taken a if you honestly thought that CM Punk was a lock, it ain't happening, guys. This is not just storyline. Check this out. So, the latest development, and I can't go through everything that's happened beforehand. If you guys have been following the podcast, you should already know, and you should have already been following the podcast left and right. Every single time there's a BC podcast, you should be viewing. Listening, at least. Listening. I don't care if you view or not, right? Just put in the earbuds, listen, because we're talking about it all the time. So I'm only going to go over the latest developments. During the upfronts, Turner Networks, Warner Discovery, they did not mention CM Punk at all with the Collision show. All of the promotional material that once had Punk, Phil Brooks, it has been taking off. Now, originally, we thought, this is smart. This is what they should be doing. We've already had the pre-announced Punk shit, and it popped a rating for a few weeks, a couple of months, and then it went right back to 950,000 in viewership, right? It got old quick. The surprise was never a surprise. It was pre-announced. So we're thinking, okay, maybe it's Punk's decision. Maybe Tony Khan woke up with a good thought and said, hey, we should make this more of a surprise. The whole world's already thinking it's happening. Let's do some smoke and mirror BS, and let's come up with a pop-up surprise. So that's what we were thinking, right? They took him off the promotional. Warner Discovery doesn't mention him. And then all of a sudden something happened. Warner Discovery, Turner Networks, the president, Solarnis, he says, no, it wasn't just Solarnis. Like, there was a couple press releases that said, no, there's all this buzz about CM Punk has nothing to do with Collision. We cannot stress that enough. So if that's what you're tuning in for, if that's what you think this show is centered around, that's not what this is. That's why we did not mention it. It was odd for them to go out of their way. Now, of course, with wrestling fans, everything is a work. So we're thinking, no, maybe Warner Discovery, Turner Networks, Solarnis, the president, everybody is involved with the work. And they're playing along. So they sent out a press. And I'm like, well, wow. I don't think the network and the Warner Discovery, I don't think can do that. Like, legally, I don't think you can just put out false information because you're working a wrestling show. You know, like you have other audience that's reading these press releases. They follow the business of Turner Networks and Warner Discovery. You have you have a bunch of players that need to know the truth. And you're just like, no, Punk has nothing to do. Well, now the people that have investment in Warner Discovery, Now they're like, well, wait a second. Why did you deter us from the truth? So BC had a red flag there. I'm like, you got to be careful with this. Like, they cannot come out with a press release and say they have nothing to do. This show has nothing to do with Punk. Punk has no affiliation, as of now anyway, with this show. And then we got the report literally an hour later that Ace Steel, one of Punk's good friends, and Punk Punk is like a dog, right? He only has a close little circle, and after that circle, he doesn't care which bridge he burns. Now, I can respect that, right? I don't like people in general, so I keep a close circle, no question. And I'm a pretty shitty stranger, probably. I'm an asshole, right? Like in public or whatever, if I'm not the guy who's gonna smile as we walk by, right? I'm probably gonna look at you and I'm gonna grunt like I'm a fucking German Shepherd or a fucking fierce Chow Chow, right? Like I'm gonna growl and look at you. I'm not a pleasant son of a bitch. I'm not walking by you. We're not gonna look and share a smile. I'm not going to give you courtesies. I'm not going to hold the door for more than 3 seconds if you're not fast enough. No, that's not me. I'll slam the door on your face. I'm probably a shitty stranger. I get it. I don't like people for the most part. If you're my people, I'm there for you. But I don't go out of my way to be shitty. You know, I don't go out of my way to burn bridges. I don't go out of my way to be a fucking douche. That's the problem with Brooks. Even if you're a CM Punk fan, I hope you understand that a shit ton, I mean by the hundreds of wrestlers don't have a nice thing to say about this dude. Like, they did not get a good vibe. He was so standoffish. He didn't want to shoot this shit over a lunch if they were at the table, if there was just no room left. It's just like, hey, man, what match you got tonight, you know? You just heard so many stories, and it didn't take long in AEW for him to inject that lethal dose of toxicity, and that lethal dose of poison in the locker room has still to this day never been the same. It's just what he does, right? So, my point is, Ace Steel is one of his people in the circle. So, apparently, TK had said, at least in word, handshake type of deal, okay, Ace Steel can come back too, but he just can't be on TV, right? He can't be anywhere where like the Bucks and a lot of the locker room might be. If they're in a story or a feud and they have to be on like a collision or anything like that, they can't come across Ace Steel. And maybe there is actually legality still pending, which is what we heard, especially with the Bucks and others. So, okay, Ace Steel can come back, but it's restricted. Apparently, Punk didn't like that. Punk said, no, he's coming back with me. Wherever I need to go, he's with me. And that's just it. Almost like Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman, right? Looking out for his herd. And apparently, like, that didn't go over well. Maybe it didn't go over well with a lot of the locker room. For whatever reason, Tony Khan went back to Punk and said, we can't do that. It's got to be this way. I'm bringing him back. That's got to be good enough. He can't be on TV or XYZ. We don't know the full details, but this is the report that we're getting. Seemed pretty reputable, and it was backed up, as if other people were hearing the same shit in different varieties. So if we're sticking to this, where Tony Khan came back and said, dude, I have to stick my foot into the ground permanently on this one. I can't budge. I can't have Steel at X, Y, and Z events. And Punk, thinking he's got leverage all the time, is saying, no, then I'm not doing it. If Steel isn't coming back in this capacity, full throttle, then you ain't getting me. And is it a surprise that after that, we're seeing all of this trickle down where Punk is no longer a part of Collision? This has now gone to what was 100% a lock. Collision was surrounded around Punk. That's why you're getting the brand split. To all of a sudden, at the 11th hour, it looks like it has imploded. That's not saying it can't get back on track, by the way, guys. And it most likely will. It looks like there's only this 1 or 2 roadblocks, pending legalities that for some reason cannot get mowed over, and then this Ace Steel topic. But there's still this massive block between Punk and Khan. And by the way, right from the jump, that should tell you that if you're a boss like Tony Khan, you should have severed ties with Punk immediately. The upsides do not outweigh the downsides. There's way too many negatives that overlap. many times over the positives. The negatives far outweigh the positives with CM Punk. Guys, they just do. The metrics, the numbers, the needle does not move enough to put up with this type of bullshit and drama. And to still be doing this has got to be the biggest headache in Tony Khan's fucking existence. Every fucking morning, he's got to put up with that shit. Sever it. You get a choice every morning to sever the BS. Cut the shit. Cut the shit, Tony, right? Old school Jade Cargill to Tony Schiavone. Cut the shit, Tony. And literally, cut the shit here. Cut the Punk. But he keeps... we're acting like Phil Brooks moves the needle to the point where AEW literally needs CM Punk, which is the notion that fans say, Jim Ross says, and some others like FTR, who literally... FTR is up Punk's ass like Paul Levesque is up Vince McMahon's ass. Ease up, man. You ain't got to know what he's had for breakfast every morning, lunch, dinner, and every snack in between, every protein bar in between. Relax. Get off the dude's ass. FTR, Dax, I should say. Relax, bro. You ain't got to be his biggest cheerleader. At some point, you have to say enough. You gots to go. We're acting like CM Punk has moved the needle to the point where AEW truly needs him. He did not move the needle to that way the first time. What makes you think the second time, after a month or two, when all of the buzz has faded away, all of the answers have been all the questions have been answered, I should say. And then where are you 2 months later? Exactly where we were the first time. It's not worth the headache. It's not worth the locker room imploding. It's not worth the locker room being so damn divided, literally and figuratively, over one person. And there's people that go, it's because the locker room can't grow up and work with this one person. I don't blame them. This one person has shown you time and time again that he's such a fucking douche. Nobody wants to work with him. Nobody should have to show up to work and work with the douche. Nobody should have to. If you wake up in the morning and you come across an asshole, unfortunately, you came across an asshole. If you continue to encounter an asshole throughout the whole day, you keep coming across a new asshole, you are probably the asshole. No, I don't blame the locker room. This dude went to the media scrum. He called out all the shit. He's the one who fucking wanted the fight. He told everybody, if you don't like it, come to the fucking locker room. And everybody came to the locker room. And all of a sudden, now he's the victim. And now all of a sudden, everybody has to shake hands and get along for business. No, not all the time. Absolutely, that's good if you can, right? Put the shit aside, make it a work, and go to work. But not all the time, man. If there's if there's a lethal dose of poison in your locker room, sometimes it is best to move the fucking dose of poison. I could speak an hour on it. You guys know that. But it's amazing that we're even at this situation where the whole locker room is overshadowed by this. And I think that's what infuriates a lot of people more than anything else. It's the fact that nothing can truly move on until Punk is just done with AEW and Tony Khan comes out and definitively says, that's it. We tried the experiment. It failed. And the locker room was just not better off with him. And the company has not been the same. And that's not a positive ever since. And that's what's happening. It doesn't matter. The MJF title reign. You could have a Ricky Starks, Jericho feud. You can have FTR win tag titles. You could bring in a shock victory like Action Andretti. You could have somebody like Vikingo try to shock the world with his wrestling match. Nothing that happens in AEW. You can have anarchy matches, stadium stampede matches. Nothing will grab a headline over the Punk shit right now. The company is just a shell of what it once was because it's being gripped. It's being literally... It's being just cradled by CM Punk. Manhandled by CM Punk. And it's Tony Khan that's allowing it. And he's going to come back for Collision, and all of us just roll our eyes, and we're just exhausted by it. And we're like, fine, just do it. Bring him back. The whole world will see after 2 months that he doesn't move the fucking needle, just like we saw the first fucking time. But okay, let's fucking do this again. After the brawl out shit, everybody said, oh, now I see what you're saying, all the CM Punk fans. Now I get it, man. He really does burn every bridge. And then we wait, a couple months go by, and then what happens? Everybody lets it go. They forget about it, or they want to see him back because we're fickle, right? We spent 2 months saying, yeah, that's horrible. Just like Jeff Hardy, right? After 17 DUIs or whatever, and fucking crashing his fucking car, and fucking keep doing the same thing on a suspended license nonstop, and then everybody goes, oh yeah, he's got to go away for a couple years, no doubt, and he's got to be done wrestling. This is not good. I even agree. As the biggest Jeff Hardy fan, I got to agree, right? We hear that in the community. And then a few months go by, and we start to hear Jeff Hardy's doing much better, and he's ready for a comeback, and we're like, yeah, I think he deserves another chance. What? What happened to just going away for a couple years and getting healthy and getting your mind right and not just jumping right back into the ring because your legalities have just finished or you think you've done better after a few months? That's not how this works. That's not how recovery works. Oh, man. And we do the same thing for Punk. Oh, yeah, I think Punk is just not happy in wrestling. Wrestling does not need, but this just needs to be a marriage that has to get a divorce. But no, after a few months, we go, I'm ready for Punk to come back. AEW needs him. So we said, okay, you know what? Collision, Punk's coming back. Let's just get it over with, right? And then these new stories arise. And we're like, what are we doing? Now Punk won't show up because Ace Steel is not able to work every event? Tony Khan has to fucking put his foot down. This isn't Tony Khan's fault. I'm glad he found his balls and reattached them. I wish Paul Levesque would get his balls out of Stephanie McMahon's purse, reattach them, and utilize them against the old bastard in Stanford. Tony Khan has to draw a hard line here, man. And if that risks Punk, then it risks Punk. In fact, to my knowledge, the 17th, the debut of Collision, was supposed to be Chicago. Still might be. But they refused to even announce that. They've announced Toronto or Ontario, some shit in Canada, the following week. They haven't even fucking issued that. They might be changing that as we speak. We don't know. There is a chance. I no matter if Punk ends up being on that first show or not, I 1,000,000,000% know that something happened to derail the initial talks. I truly believe that Punk is not, and to prove that, look how hard he went after Bryan Alvarez. Now, on this channel, we have no fucking love history for people like Bryan Alvarez or Meltzy Boy and their 27-star matches or whatever the fuck they do. Bryan Alvarez, take him or leave him. I'll leave him every time. I don't give a fuck about a Bryan Alvarez. But listen how hard this dude come. Alvarez was just saying, like, from what I'm hearing, there's a good chance that Punk is not going to be there at Collision because there has been a falling out. The plans have fallen through negatively. And look what Punk says. This is a quote. Phil Brooks, CM Punk says, and I quote, "Look, everyone, Bryan Alvarez doesn't like it when misinformed internet trolls make up rumors, so please stop making them up in stories for clicks while Bryan makes up rumors and stories for clicks, okay?" I don't even know what the fuck the guy's saying. He's married, for God's sake. By God, that guy's got a family. He's trying to be funny with the Jim Ross call. He then puts in parentheses, Bryan Alvarez, shut the fuck up and stop talking about me, challenge day one. So he comes hard at Bryan Alvarez. Alvarez just came up with what he was hearing. And there's validity to it. Alvarez didn't break the initial story. Multiple reports were hearing variations of that same shit with Ace Steel and much more. And that Punk initially backed out. And that's what is causing the hang-up. And the legal disputes not to be fucking finally mulled over once and for all. There's truth to a lot of these stories. And Punk just getting upset and trashing people like Alvarez when he's not adding anything to debunk anything that's being heard. Little shady there. There's absolutely validity to all this shit. A lot of people are saying that it's gone down to 50-50 that Punk could be there at Collision. I'm in that category. I think it's gone down to at least 50-50. And I can't even tell you I give a fuck. I still believe they get Punk for that show and going forward because they've already dedicated all the time and plans to splitting up the roster and fucking rolling out a red carpet for Phil Brooks and fucking getting on their fucking knees at the fucking drop of a hat. If he drops his fucking pants, they'll be in position. They're giving this guy the world. They've already set that in fucking place, in motion. And clearly, when you give somebody who expects the world, they're only going to want more. They're not going to be satisfied. Somebody like Brooks, when you cater to him, he's never going to be satisfied. He's going to know that he owns you and he's going to do it more. He's going to want more. It's never going to be a satisfied spot for this dude. So I expect him to fucking be there at Collision. I do still expect it to be in Chicago, but they're refusing, as of this recording, to announce that, to make it official. And they're going to be in Chicago the following week, by the way. The show is going to be, Collision is going to be in Canada, but there's also a show in Chicago for the following week, I believe. So, I mean, they're in Chicago that week before they head out to Canada. There's no reason for it not to be that Saturday in Chicago. There's no reason for it not to be. It's almost like they're pulling it back, not for storyline purposes. It's almost like, no, they don't want to fucking, they're not going to go to Chicago without fucking Punk, so they may have to pull that back. Guys, this whole thing has gone bizarre. I know there's going to be people in the community go, it's all a work, BC. It's all a work. To these people, the whole thing has been a work. And there's no point to it. You've just destroyed the image of your company. All for what? A little pop of a rating when he shows up, and then after a couple months, it's right back to where it was. This is not a work from the beginning, guys. This is real shit with real legalities. Like, real legal shit. And this latest report we're hearing, this is all done not by a worked design. There's real problems that have arisen at the last hour for the company, for Tony Khan and CM Punk, between them. And now the network is in scramble mode. Khan's in scramble mode. Punk is fucking is pissed off at people like Alvarez. Again, I could go a fucking hour more on this. I'm going to cut it there because we've already went long enough on it. That is the deal. Everybody has pulled back, man. Turner Networks, Warner Discovery has pulled everything, every promotional thing any mention, even going out of their way to send out a release saying that Punk has no affiliation with Collision. Tony Khan does not seem like his happy, joyful self as of late, almost like something big happened and derailed a lot of plans that were in the works. Punk looks more miserable than ever before as he shoots back at people like Alvarez. Nobody looks happy if this thing is happening. Basically, it's all a work, man. It's going to be a shock surprise. Well, no. Not the second they do announce they're in Chicago, you know it's Punk anyway, right? So I think they're trying to work something out. If Tony Khan cannot, sever the ties, man. There's nothing to be gained if you cater to this dude's every fucking needs. If you don't think Ace Steel should be there with him, like they're best friends in preschool, then Brooks is going to have to act like an adult and go to work by himself. You're not always going to have your best buddy there because everybody else doesn't like you. Tony Khan has to get those fucking balls attached and utilize them. I'm proud of him if he does. This is an ever-changing story. BC will have the latest like nobody else in this community. I will always have the latest take, news, update, as it pertains to the AEW Brooks situation, and I will always dissect it easily, better than anybody in the community. You guys know that, man. We'll take a great deal of time. Yeah, BC is not going to be dishing out 10, 15, 20-minute videos at you guys. That's not how we rock, bro. We are going to dissect shit because these stories deserve the time. They need the time to talk about them. There's a lot to discuss. That's what I got for you now, guys. An ever-changing story. I'll be on top of it for sure. Before we take off, I also... Oh, but by the way, just to follow up on what I just said, according to Melty Boy, Warner Brothers Discovery was told to remove Punk from all their material. They ended up forgetting to remove him from one of the press releases, which ended up being leaked. Melty Boy claims that the situation did happen and that the PW Insider story that initially broke about Ace Steel was pretty darn close to the actual truth. So that's what I mean. And it wasn't just that report that I saw. A few other reputable people that I know community-wise were saying that they heard variations. Melty Boy saying that the variation that PW Insider is telling is pretty damn close to what he is hearing as well. And it said that Warner Brother Discovery is believing that their attempts to work everything out will be met with Brooks. So again, this backs up. See, I'm just reading this now. This is exactly what BC was hearing initially and what my conclusion was. There's still time. I think this week they're going to hard-hittingly, there you go. They're going to hard-hittingly reach out to CM Punk and try to work this out, because I truly believe Collision was created to work around CM Punk. And without CM Punk, the nucleus, I'm pretty sure the network, Tony Khan, AEW, doesn't know what Collision is. And that's a shitty place to be in for Tony Khan and the network, because now you are at Phil Brooks's feet. You are at CM Punk's beck and call. He's got this company in the network by the balls, bro. But it looks like they're going to try to work it out. So that tells you guys, we're all hearing the same thing. This is not a work. There has been a lot of huge wrinkles in the plans. And right now it's 50-50 in the air. It's all about if CM Punk... How much is he going to hold this company hostage, man? It's Ace Steel with me or not, and I have these list of commands. That's what I got for you guys. That's the latest in this ever-revolving story. And I also want to give a shout-out to the Graham family. We just lost superstar Billy Graham at 79 years old, one of the legends in the industry. I was not able to see too much of his work growing up, but he is a lot of what you see today and what you saw growing up was from that guy. I can tell you right now, superstar Billy Graham hasn't been in the best. He's just been under the weather big time for a while, and he just passed away at 79. So much love and respect to the Graham family. Thank you for all you have done. In this industry. Superstar Billy Graham, gone, clearly, never could be forgotten. So, salute. Amp Unit! I want to end this with a few shout-outs, if you don't mind. And that is to JR9 Gaming. With that coffee super thanks, man. JR9! Rock it, bro! My right-hand man on the channel, my gal JC Jane, is so good. Loved what she did yesterday. Her promo, mannerisms, in-ring skills are just so good. I really hope she gets the women's title eventually. She is a megastar and is easily the most complete female star heel-wise in NXT. I'm not arguing with you there, bro. You watched that product so vividly. You have been right on the money with everything you've said about Jane. I got to see her full throttle against my gal, Roxy, on Tuesday. I actually got to catch that whole match. That was really cool. Got to see quite a few segments of NXT, man. But Roxy and JC, man, even when Roxy was a little bit of ahead, like ahead of herself, like tone it down just a heartbeat, right? Just a beat. Even when Roxy was a little bit too excited to get to the next move, JC Jane was right there, bro. You don't always see that. And then JC, yeah, man, I'm so... Her entrance, JR9, which goes along with what you said, mannerisms, things like that, but like her entrance, it's just like she's believing her shit, you know? It's that type of confidence. Loved it, man. No question. Gigi's assault on her post-match was funny because JC didn't retreat. They went to the outside, but if you noticed, when Gigi went headfirst into the apron, JC didn't run away. That's usually what the heel will do. JC's like, come on. He starts throwing bows, bro. So she's also badass. She's not just a runaway heel. I love that. JR9, man. Appreciate you, brother. Also, PB Silly Pride with a coffee in the super thanks down below, man. I do love professional wrestling, and that is a reason I joined the unit. PB Silly Pride, I know, man, and I know you're probably talking about like just the stale state that it's kind of in right now with Raw's ratings and just nothing seeming to captivate us, and storylines that are just sitting so stale like they're the New Day. Much love to Big E and Kofi and even Xavier. But as a unit, they cannot be more stale. It's almost like wrestling in general, man. When you come out with a show you had on Monday night, it's just like, what are we doing? That's 3 hours of our primetime television. And then you wonder why they pull a 1.715. It's not because of playoffs, guys. Somebody said there wasn't even playoffs on Monday night. I got to recheck that, because if they pulled a 1.715 and there wasn't even playoffs, well, fuck. That shows you that was just that bad of a show. That they didn't even get dented by playoffs. But PB Silly Pride, appreciate you, man. And also, hold on. Hold on, man, please. Gotta make sure I got everybody here, man. There was several new channel members as well. And I think there were some old schoolers that came back onto the membership. For some reason, there was a re-upped membership. If I can get that, that'd be great. A little more than 2 hours later. Saeed Parker. 5 months. James Miller, 5 months. D Block 85, 1 month. Gaming R3 App 3R, which was TJ Baines, 3-month membership, but there was a rejoin. So do they count that still as full? I don't know. What happens when you like for some reason if you get canceled out and you rejoin the membership? Because right now it still says Saeed, it says rejoined, but Saeed still at 5 months. James Miller still 5 months. TJ Baines still had a 3-month membership, and that was just a rejoin. 3 month D stands alone. 4 months Renee G. Jason Barker, 8 days. Welcome. New. Yeah, it's a lot of rejoins. I guess you get to keep your months, maybe? I don't know. I got to keep a close eye on that. But there was a lot of new channel members this week. So a big shout out to all you guys, man. I'll do a full shout out list. Maybe we'll do that in the second podcast later. And again, in the near future, I want to do a members chat only, channel members. So it'll be a live stream for everybody, but the chat will just be gold card. It'll be like a board committee meeting, you know? I got to call my gold carders into a meeting, and we got to discuss a lot of what's happening in the wrestling world, bro. Because damn, there's a lot to talk about. Sometimes you got to put your board out there. You got to put the front line out there, and we got to discuss it. Guys, until next time, and there will be a next time, as in later this evening, a second Amped Up podcast. That's how amped up we are today. But we got some business to take care of now. But there will be a second Amped Up podcast with BC later this evening. I really hope you guys can join. Just put the earbuds in, even if you got business to take care of. Put the earbuds in, listen to BC, smash that up, obviously, later as well, not just in this podcast. And we'll rock out. We'll shoot the shit a little bit later today, man. And of course, tomorrow there'll be another podcast. We got the SmackDown review for Saturday morning. Oh, man, there's a lot more to go. This is the channel, bro. Just smash the subscription button. Stay notified. Smash the little bell. You know you want to, bro. Just smash the shit. Don't be a bitch boy, Braden. Smash the shit. You are a part of the best wrestling community within the community. The Amplified Unit. Salute. What a fucking podcast, bro. This has been a lot of fun. We're going to do it again in a few hours. Check you. Top guy. I'm out. BC. Saying peace.